Today I want to talk about Arik Gilbert in Florida, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on the stat mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about five-star tight end Arik Gilbert and his decision to transfer from LSU and perhaps end up at Florida. That is now in flux. But let's start at the beginning, see if we can't work forward and talk about perhaps even another player that Florida would love to get, but there's some scuttle about. All right, so Arik Gilbert comes out of Marietta, Georgia, where he was an absolute monster as a tight end. 1,800 yards receiving as a tight end is unheard of. 6'5", 250 pounds, the most coveted five-star at his position, perhaps ever. Certainly the highest rated in the rankings history ever. Ends up at LSU the year after LSU wins a national championship when Joe Burrow passes for over 5,000 yards, throws 60 touchdowns against just 6 interceptions, and it feels like LSU is very much going to challenge each and every year based on its recruiting. Winning the commitment of Arik Gilbert is a big part of that. The pandemic hits. Then you get the opt-outs. And among them, your top pass catcher, Jamar Chase, would won the Biletnikoff Award in 2019. Decides he's not going to play football at all. Later in the year, Terrace Marshall, another guy that could be a fringe first-round draft pick, not unlike the way that Justin Jefferson was a fringe first-round draft pick that blossomed into the kind of guy that could have won Rookie of the Year last year. He's gone. Your top returning pass catcher, that would be Arik Gilbert, 35 catches for 368 yards, along with guys like Kayshon Boutte, decides he's going to opt out of the last stretch of the season, and then we find out a little bit later he's going to enter the transfer portal. Some of that we thought had to do with homesickness, because that was what the report was, even coming out of LSU. And Georgia is very close to home for him with Marietta, and if you want to get back to mama, that's a good place to go. Darnell Washington, the guy rated behind him, is also there, and Darnell is 6'7", 260, and I love the prospect, the idea of Arik Gilbert and Darnell Washington on either side of the field, standing on the number saying, you can't cover both of us, you can barely cover one of us, but that wasn't in the cards. What Arik Gilbert decided was to transfer to the University of Florida, following in the footsteps of one Kyle Pitts, who played not even that many games, all things told. And Florida was still an All-American, and over the last 2 years, it caught a combined 97 passes, right? I think he's so good as a tight end that I wish that he would have entered the NFL draft as a wide receiver, because I think the NFL pay scale is a little bit different for him there, but he's going in as a tight end, and he will be the first tight end taken off the board. I will be shocked if he makes it out of the first round with the kind of size and speed that he allows you in that position as a slot or even a guy that can flex out. Behind him, though, that's where it got interesting. You have guys like Keon Zipperer, and I love me some Keon Zipperer. I think that dude is going to be a dude. So you would have had Arik Gilbert and he to go on, but you also would have had a Dan Mullins who has made his living here of late developing dudes out of the transfer portal, along with tight ends coach Tim Brewster. And Brewster, many of you will know, helped develop Antonio Gates into the monster that he was in the NFL, and of course, Kyle Pitts. But then just taking a look at some of the guys that come through in the Dan Mullen era at Florida, I'll tell you about some transfers. Trayvon Grimes, wide receiver, comes from Ohio State. Van Jefferson, wide receiver, comes from Ole Miss. Jonathan Grinner, linebacker, outside linebacker, defensive end type edge guy, comes out of Louisville. Brenton Cox, defensive end, outside linebacker type, comes from Georgia. Offensive lineman Stuart Reese came from Mississippi State. Receiver Justin Shorter, who's probably going to be your wide receiver one this year, came out of Penn State. Couple that with the idea that Florida can take a big class this year, not unlike Alabama last year, who could take 27. Florida can take 28, and that is, they're smart to leave a few of those for transfers that hit the portal. They could basically take 22 new signees and have 5 new FBS transfers tacked onto that if that's what they want to do. And you could take an Arik Gilbert even in a year where you might not get to play him. The reason that I have talked about another player they really want is because Henry To'oto is still on the board. Now, there are 2 transfer crystal balls in that say Alabama, and they were logged like nearly a month ago now, though, February 11th. So we'll see how that ends up for him. But whoever gets that dude coming from Tennessee is also going to get a big win. And there are other guys that I still didn't mention in that transfer, just that list of transfers that I want to. So we're talking about DeMarcus Bowman coming from Clemson, moving closer to home. We're talking about Daquan Newkirk coming from Auburn. Defensive lineman Antonio Shelton, Penn State. And then even a kicker, Jace Christman coming to Mississippi State. Like, that dude would have... There's a joke in there about the LSU game, but I'm not going to make it because we're talking about Florida. But if you're trying to sell Arik Gilbert on being the next Kyle Pitts, there's no better place to do that than Florida. Plus, we don't really know what the offense is going to look like at Alabama. And even if we did, Jaleel Billingsley is still there and still a monster, though O.J. Howard didn't get an opportunity to shine until basically late into that year where he was getting drafted. He went off and had been a monster, ever since. And then Irv Smith also coming out of Alabama. So they got receipts over there. Little Forstall was also really good for them. There's a lot of good options on the table for Arik Gilbert. But now the report is, and this is from G. Allen Taylor at The Athletic, there are some academic issues that Gilbert has to overcome to get to Florida, which means that junior college could be a route to go. And I shudder at the thought of what Arik Gilbert might do on a junior college team. And if it's like Glenn or Hutchinson or any of those powers in junior college, that could be a lot of fun to watch too. He wouldn't be the first really talented football player to go that route either. I mean, Cam Newton comes off the top of my head, right? He goes out to Blaney, comes out at Auburn, and leads them to a national championship. So it's not the end of anything. But I'm sure people would love to get him on campus and stash him away, if at all possible. If that's Florida, I think it's great. If it's Georgia, I think it's great. If he returns to LSU, I think it's great. I would love to see Arik Gilbert play football, and I know that you and your team would love to see him on your football team. So all things to keep into account. We'll keep watching about what comes out and when it comes out, but I wanted to do this now that we are really starting to settle in with quarterbacks deciding where they're going to commit to, and we're seeing these classes build very quickly. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.